Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig. I am your host, Craig DeLuce, here to have coffee and conversation with you as we talk about firearms, firearm policy, Second Amendment advocacy, you name it, we're here to talk about it. In any case, I want to thank you. Also, want to make sure you guys support our sponsors, Sacramento Black Rifle, Sparks Black Rifle. These are two organizations that are two of the best firearms stores, firearms retailers for firearms and firearm accessories on the West Coast, both in Sacramento and in Sparks, Nevada. These are people who don't just believe in operating in the commerce of the Second Amendment, but also facilitating it by supporting this show and supporting your right to keep and bear arms. So please support us by supporting them and visit them on Facebook, Instagram, or just you can Google them, go to their websites. Anyway, also want to remind you, please make sure to go to fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. It's a great place to go. Once again, buy very cool T-shirts, very cool swag, support the Second Amendment, supporting the Second Amendment and looking good doing it. That's fpcgear.com. Every dollar goes back into the fight for our civil rights. All right, let's get into today's topic. Now, here in California, California is not a very pro-gun state. We know this. All right, we already know this. We already know that the majority party, as well as the majority in our state legislature, well, they don't support your constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Some of them say they do, but in the end, they support your right probably to own a slingshot, if that, maybe one that only throws confetti at people. Well, there was a measure, and this is what's interesting about this measure. And I'll tell you what's interesting about this measure at the very end. But it's a bill that was actually introduced by Hannah Beth Jackson. Hannah Beth Jackson is she's a member of the Senate Public Safety Committee. So needless to say, she's a member of the majority party. So needless to say, she does not believe in public safety. She really just wants to make victims out of individuals who simply want to be able to defend themselves by exercising their right to keep and bear arms. Anyway, she introduced a bill, SJR 24, which called upon Congress to institute an assault weapons ban, as well as called upon CalPERS, which is one of the largest largest retirement systems in the entire country, called on them to divest from companies that invest in firearms. So anyway, I'll let her explain to you exactly what it is that her bill does. Here, check this out real quick.
This is a resolution calling on Congress and the President to adopt a comprehensive assault weapons ban and also calling on CalPERS to divest its gun holdings. I don't know about you, but after the latest shootings where we saw the bump stock being used and there was a call to at least ban this and there was a promise that it would happen, nothing has happened. Absolutely nothing. And rapid-fire assault weapons with large clips of ammunition have only one purpose: the mass slaughter of large numbers of human beings. These weapons are designed for military use to achieve that mission in combat. For nearly 80 years, federal law has banned machine guns, grenades, and bombs, other weapons of war, like assault weapons, that are simply too dangerous to be in civilian hands.
Okay, so let's just break this down a few places. First and foremost, what she states is true. Yes, machine guns there are laws that keep them largely out of civilian hands. So I don't know exactly what it is that she is referring to. I don't know exactly what it is that she's talking about additionally banning, because the firearms that she is proclaiming that Congress has said should not be in the hands of civilians, well, guess what? They're not in the hands of civilians. The problem is you want to expand the firearms that are not allowed in the hands of civilians, as if these are brand new firearms that were made for military use, when in fact the firearms that you want to ban are made for civilian use, specifically designed for civilian use. And by the way, as I'll note in my testimony, there's no such thing as assault weapons. They just don't exist. An assault-style weapon is something that they just made up. What they mean is we want to ban scary guns. And that's really about it. Their goal is they want to ban scary guns because, well, they are scary. Notice how quick, how swiftly she moves between gun violence in general and specifically talking about quote-unquote assault-style weapons. It's like they use the statistics as though they're interchangeable, ignoring the fact that you are talking about several different things. She went from talking about, mind you, in her testimony, from talking about firearms that are already illegal under California and federal law, to firearms that they want to be illegal, to violence that's created by all firearms, and doesn't really even take the time to distinguish one between the other and how this bill of hers particularly affects that. But that's just one aspect in terms of calling for this ban on something that is just made up by the left. But then on the other side, they want to divest from companies that are involved in either the sale or manufacture, not of these banned firearms, but of all firearms. Check it out.
In light of this statistical significance, I believe it's time for California's investment policies to match the views of the state's citizens and to stand up and, stand with the victims of these horrific crimes. CalSTRS has already taken the step of divesting its holdings in gun manufacture, perhaps realizing the disconnect between its retirees' investments and teachers' mission of keeping students safe in the classroom. And further, as pressure is mounting on Wall Street to do something about gun violence, I believe this is an appropriate time for us as a state to call upon CalPERS, investment firms, and others who are also re-examining their portfolios, many of which are dropping gun stocks, and asking weapons manufacturers what they're doing to make sure their products don't end up in a mass shooting. Several major retailers, including Dick's Sporting Goods, have decided to stop selling assault-style weapons altogether, and others like Walmart will be raising the age to purchase a firearm in their stores to 21. In short, they have recognized that guns are bad for business, and CalSTRS, I believe, has the opportunity to reinforce that position. And with that, I would respectfully ask for your aye vote.
And while, I was there in order to testify on this bill. In fact, I was the only person actually to testify against the bill. NRA, Gun Owners of California, had submitted their letters of opposition in opposition to the bill. But I was actually there to testify. And I think you'll kind of get the gist of where I'm coming from. And I don't need to tell you what I said. You can just listen to what I said. Here it is.
I think it's important to note that what we're talking about here is a resolution that says we don't like a constitutionally enumerated right, whether we like it or not. The right to keep and bear arms is noted in our Constitution, and it's there for a reason. Rights that are enumerated in our Constitution aren't because they're convenient. The right to free speech isn't there to protect speech with which we all agree. In fact, it is there to protect speech which some may find objectionable. And I understand, we fully understand that some people, well, they choose not to exercise their right to keep and bear arms. But for the state government, for the government to put forth a resolution basically decrying the right to keep and bear arms, and let us be clear, there is no such thing as an assault weapon. There is no such thing as an assault-style weapon. There have been no real significant changes in the type of firearms that we're talking about. The AR-15, which is kind of the target in particular of resolutions like this, has been around since 1959. What we are talking about here is not a gun problem. It's not a tool problem. It is a people problem. It is an issue within our society that needs to be addressed. It is not a gun violence issue. It is a violence issue, one that we do seriously need to talk about. But as long as we are going to, as a solution, seek to disarm law-abiding citizens and use the power of government to pressure businesses who are engaging in the facilitation of that constitutional right, I think that we are overstepping our bounds.
Now, I thought I made my case pretty clear. I thought I hit every point that she made. I thought I addressed every single one of them very clearly and very concisely. Mind you, I've given less than 2 minutes in order to be able to present my case, but I thought I did a halfway decent job. In particular, when I was talking about things like the First Amendment. And then Ms. Jackson decided to come back. And this is a refrain that she likes to use oftentimes, and how she likes to talk about the Second Amendment not being limited, or the Second Amendment not being unlimited, but talking about it as a limited right. So here's the example she always uses. I'm sure you've heard this one before.
Referencing the First Amendment, the gentleman supporting the unfettered right to own firearms forgets the fact that there is no constitutional right that is without a limitation. And up until the Heller case, we had affirmations that the society and public safety do warrant instances where guns are regulated. The way speech, we do not allow someone to yell fire in a movie theater because it is a threat to public safety. Firearms, and specifically in this instance, assault-type weapons, are a threat to public safety.
All right, we're just going to break it down real simple. Yes, she is correct. You are not allowed to yell fire in a crowded theater. Although, actually, in actuality, yes, you are allowed to yell fire in a crowded theater. In particular, if there is a fire in that theater. But see, here's what's more important. What is more important to this entire thing is that, these are about civil rights, and we don't take civil rights lightly. What they want to do with bills like this isn't so much that they're not just talking about limiting the impact of the right. So in other words, for example, and I'll use the example of the yelling fire in a theater. We don't put duct tape on people's mouths before they walk into the theater in case they might potentially yell fire. What we do is that if they go in and they yell fire and they do so improperly, then, and there are consequences and something happens, then they are held accountable for their actions. But we do not preemptively, in a minority report kind of way, preempt their ability to be able to exercise their constitutional right to free speech before they walk into that theater. Subsequently, what they are trying to do is they are trying to literally take away the ability of individuals to be able to exercise their constitutional right because someone in a very minute, small percentage of people might potentially abuse that right and cause harm to others. In the meantime, law-abiding citizens, who are, by the way, the only ones who are going to actually follow these laws, well, they're the ones that should be punished. While the criminals, well, hey, they're just going to continue to do whatever it is they wish to do. Now, you might be telling yourself, you might be saying to yourself, well, Craig, I know you made that argument before. You made that argument dozens of times. Well, in this particular case, it appears that the argument worked because this committee killed this bill. They killed SJR 24, and the vote was 1 to 1 to 5, meaning one member voted for it, one member voted against it, and the other 5 members chose not to vote on the topic. So that just goes to show you that when cogent arguments are made, sometimes, every once in a while, we have a chance to kill some of these measures. Folks, I know, and I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, but what about the bills that pass? What about that bill that's passing or that bill that's passing? You know what? This is why we make the fight. Because you guys, we don't oftentimes get a chance to tell you about the bills that we kill. We tell you, but you don't often hear about the bills that we've killed. The media is not writing about the fact that this bill died a gruesome death in committee. The mainstream media is not going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you that we had a victory. But I'm going to tell you that we had a victory. Not FPC. We had a victory. A victory that needs to be celebrated. Celebrated for a moment and then on to the next fight. And the only reason that we are successful, the only reason why we're able to have these victories is because you guys are on board, because you guys are a part of the fight for our civil rights. Thank you. And let me tell you, I'll just tell you right now, this is not going to be the last success story. Well, it hasn't been the first success story this year, and it won't be the last. And it's all because of you and your commitment to standing up for our right to keep and bear arms. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a part of the fight. Please make sure to like and share these videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, and tell everybody about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.